Welcome back everyone. Not a lot to do today, just a little few jobs to finish off on this PF build, as I'm now calling it. There's a few little things. The main one is we need to recut a couple of fret slots, so let's get on with it. Next task, trip down memory lane, back to school, bring out the old pencil case and a protractor. I would love one of those shiny aircraft grade aluminum crimson protractors. They do look like one of their better items for sure, but a simple plastic protractor will do. Could make the argument that a mechanical pencil is actually better for this kind of fine work, and you'd be right, but I just find that the lead breaks a little bit too easy when working with wood, so I tend to steer away from them at the moment. So first thing I want to do is actually just go down and make sure that if I bang on the centre line, the fret slots that I've already cut seem to be lined up, and they do. Just checking a few at random. Yeah, so it looks like I can trust that my centre line is centred, or at 90 degrees to the fret slots at least anyway, so I can trust it where my other frets are concerned. Now, as I did before when assessing which slots I needed to recut, what I'm actually going to do is actually draw some parallel lines to the centre line, and that'll just help me make sure visually that when I do mark out my slots, they are going to be straight. So what I want to do is make sure we're sort of just inside the binding at the thinner end of the neck. So I think about 17 mil is going to be about right. Join up the dots once more. When you're working at this level of accuracy, you kind of have to allow for the thickness of your pencil lead. So there we go, hopefully 3 very parallel lines. The next thing to do is to actually mark out the locations of the frets that we actually need to recut. Now there's a few ways you can go about this. If marking and cutting by hand, I think the best thing to do is actually get a ruler similar to this one, but an actual intentional fret spacing ruler, which just has marks in the place where all the frets should be at a given scale length. I don't have one of those. There is the option that you could take a fairly accurate meter rule like this one and actually just look up the distance between the frets and mark those, which I think is a little bit more error prone in my opinion. Or you could use a fret slotting jig. Now, I do have a fret slotting jig, and that is probably the method that I would lean towards. However, my neck as it is will not fit in the fret slotting jig, it is too tall. I could modify the jig to actually take it, but I think it's more trouble than it's worth, and when I look at simple tasks like this, which should be doable by hand, if I've messed them up by hand, I think rather than avoiding them, it's a good idea to try and do them again by hand and learn to do them properly. So what I did last time was actually take this fret slotting jig, or part of the fret slotting jig, and kind of use it as a fret spacing ruler. If I make sure that I put it in the right place, the notches, which are actually designed to fit in a locator pin, do actually indicate to me where the frets should be. It's not quite as accurate, or as easy to see the accuracy, should I say, as a proper fret slotting ruler. But as long as I make sure I've got it in the right place, and I make sure that I'm drawing right in the centre of each notch, then it should be perfectly fine. So that's exactly what I'm going to attempt to do now. And this time I think I probably didn't last time, I'm just taking the care to make sure that my mark really is right in the centre of each notch. And then this time, as an extra step, I'm going to do the same on the outside lines. And they should give me just a little bit of extra accuracy to make sure I don't put the frets in at a slant or at an angle. Alright, 3 sets of marks per side. So we just need to now join up the dots. Again, I'm just going to take my time using the protractor on the centre line to make sure all of these dots seem to make sense. Obviously today I'm sort of fixing a problem, which was that I didn't do a very good job with some fret slots the first time round, but of course this technique would apply exactly the same if I was cutting fret slots for the first time. So yeah, it's just a quick sweep down the board. Don't know how well you can see, but we've got some nice, hopefully very accurate lines on there. Next, I'm just going to take the time, both with the protractor and the fret spacer, just to check that these are both parallel, that's not the right word, they're at exactly 90 degrees to the centre line, and also that they are where they should be. And if they're not, I will rub them out and draw them again. It will be incredibly frustrating, but we have to get this right. Want to pay even more attention down at this end of the fretboard, because here the slightest little deviance makes a lot more difference in the note that's fretted. I'm a little bit unsure about, what is that, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th fret and the last fret. I think they're okay, but the fact I'm doubting myself, no harm in rubbing them out and doing them again, because it's a lot easier to make sure that they are deadly accurate right now than have to fill them in again after cutting them. I think both of them were just a little bit, I do mean a little bit, I'm talking maybe 1/4, 1/8 millimetre here, but both of them are just a tiny bit too far down the neck. And I can see where I've drawn those lines in position to the original marks I made. They are sort of on the left hand side of the marks, so I'm just going to keep those original marks, but just go about half a pencil line width to the right and see what they look like. Okay, that's definitely bang on there now on the 5th. But I'm going to remark for the final fret. There's the end I was having a little bit of trouble with. Still got that little lip at the end, but as I say, I'm planning on filing like a concave shape into there at some point. But we're definitely on to the sewing stage. As always, lack of a proper workbench with a vise is a bit of an issue, but we shall persevere with clamps. Just remembered, a depth stop would probably be a good idea.
Approximately 10 hours later.
Go. Typically, last slot there had a little, was a little bit off target with the initial score. It slipped and I managed to pull it back and get it where it needs to be, I think. Let's give it all a quick check. Really don't fancy doing round 3 of filling and cutting. So there we have it. Not the most exciting of jobs, but probably one of the most nerve-wracking. I think if I was given the choice of cutting fret slots by hand at this point in time, or setting about my neck with an angle grinder, I think I'd be more confident doing the neck with the angle grinder. But no, I think we've got some good results there. I'll just give you a little look down the fretboard. Obviously it looks a little bit weird because we've got some of the slots going right the way through the fretboard and some just to the binding. If I'm entirely honest, I'd say about maybe 2 of the fret slots are still off by about half the kerf of the fret saw, which I think is about 0.2 millimeters. But I think, you know, I've got to draw the line somewhere, and certainly by eye they look spot on. There was a few of them before, if you looked really closely you could tell they were sort of slightly skewed or slightly bent, whereas now they look pretty spot on. It would be tempting at this point to fill the edge of the fretboard back in, but it's actually probably going to work much better if we try and do that around the same time we actually put the frets in. So we'll leave it for now. As I said, it wasn't a particularly exciting job to do today, but a very important one. I think next time we will probably look at doing the second carve on the back of the neck. If you haven't seen my previous video where I carved this neck with an angle grinder, I think it was only about 1-2 episodes ago, that's a particularly good one to watch. I'll leave in the comment card at the the end card at the end of the video. I'll put a link to that if you'd like to watch it, because that will prepare for next time when I basically refine the neck shape even more. But no, we've got that job out the way now. I think we can sleep easy that we've got some fret slots we can use, and we can move on to something else. I'm definitely going to try and get the neck more or less finished and ready for final finishing before we go onto the body, I think, because I've been jumping about too much back and forth between them. But yeah, it's getting exciting. Oh well, see you next time.